I am water bath canning my tomato harvest that I grew in my garden, and I want you to come along with me so that I can show you how I process my tomatoes. Here are the supplies that I use for water bath canning. So in the back I have the water bath canner, and inside there is a rack, and I have a regular stock pot, and I have a food mill to process the tomatoes after they've been cooked down. I have a ladle that is to scoop out everything. I have a jar lifter, which is going to be used to lift up the jars out of the water, as well as when they're finished being processed. I have a magnetic lid lifter, and that helps put the lid on top of the jar if you need it. I have a debubbler, and on this end you would use it in your jar to, once it's filled, to take the air pockets or the air bubbles out. And on the other side is a measure. So it gives, sometimes the instructions will tell you to leave a headspace of 1 inch, half an inch. So it is a measure to tell you as a gauge how much to fill it up to. You have a funnel which sits on top so that you can neatly add the ingredients to the jar. Lemon juice for acidity, and measuring spoons. So basically for a quart jar, we're gonna put in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Need a lid, fan, and of course your jars. These are ball jars, canning jars. So these are the basic supplies that I use to water bath can. So now we're at the prep stage where we are going to be preparing the tomatoes. So when you get your tomatoes, you're going to of course wash them and destem them, take any blemishes out, and blossom ends on the other side. Sometimes you still have the flower on it. So you cut the core out, and then you'll have your tomato. You want to cut it up in quarters, and if you have smaller ones, you just cut them up in half. Then you will have all of your tomatoes processed and cut up, and you can either put them in a container like I did, or you can put them directly in your stock pot. And the next step would be putting them in the pot to simmer them down to get all the skins off and soften them up. And then from there, we're going to put them in the food mill to process, to remove the seeds and the skin and reduce it down to just the liquid in the pulp. Okay? And our next step is to process them in the food mill. So we're going to put that into our food mill, and that's going to remove the seeds and peels or skins. This is the, let me get this pen out so I don't drop it. This is the Ball's Blue book that I had told you about, that I use as far as recipes and instructions for both water bath canning and pressure canning. There's a difference in that, and I'll probably do a video on that explaining the differences and what foods you process. Okay, so basically we would add, using our ladle. I said counterclockwise, I meant clockwise. I gotta go back to school. Clockwise, and then counterclockwise to reverse. Get more in there. Reverse or counterclockwise. I'm glad I caught myself so y'all wouldn't put comments in a couple of times. So I did some over here, and this is the result. So you get the skins as well as the seeds. It's a little moist for me. Sometimes I'll put it back through. So I'm gonna flip this over. So what we're gonna do is clean it, and here, I'll try to get it close. If you can see, there, we're gonna have to just scrape off and put that in. And I'll get you a close up. It's just liquid here. And scrape this off. And repeat the process until everything's done. Okay, so the tomato puree has been rendering down for a while. As you can see from the top of this line, it was up to here and it has moved down. So the sauce or the puree has excuse me, thickened. And that's, the way that you would want it. And then this is another pot that I had, and it started up here and it's rendered down. Now all of this foam you want to take off. So I'm gonna move it over here and I'm gonna take it off. And in the meantime, I have my jars, the 7-quart jars in here, simmering in water. You wanna never put hot liquid into a cold jar. So you wanna make sure that your jars are hot or warm in this water. We're going to take these jars out and fill them with the puree and then put them back in here. So let me skim this off really quick. And then, sorry, I don't know why my voice is drying. So I'm going to skim this off. You don't have to watch it all, and we'll be back. And we're going to take out these jars, empty the water. So you're squeezing tight and dumping out this water. These are hot jars that we're going to fill with hot liquid, our hot tomato puree. So I'm going to take these all out, squeeze tight. And this same water we're going to keep. So what I also do with the rack, I simply put it up and on here. So once I get all the jars filled, I'm gonna be sitting them here, all 7. Then I'm going to lift them and put them all down at the same time. Now that I got my hot jars out, it's time to get my hot puree in. Make sure I turn off the stove. And before we do that, we're gonna add, excuse me, for acidity, tomatoes, they fluctuate in their acidity versus alkaline with the pH. So the Ball book states that we are for a quart jar to put in 2 tablespoons per jar. And based on the book here, I'll just confirm it. For 2 tablespoons of bottled lemon juice to a hot quart jar. So here is our lemon juice. You could use citric acid, and that would be 1/2 of a tablespoon per jar. As the measure. So we're going to leave a 1/2 inch headspace. So I'm going to, just for the interest of time, show you the next couple of steps. So with this debubbler, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if I could lift up the jar, but there's always bubbles in here. Sometimes some people slightly tap it, you know, lift it up so the air bubbles will surface. Next, we're gonna check our the rims of the jars. And then we're gonna wipe them down, make sure that we're checking to see if there's anything cracked, uneven, whatever. We should have did that when we washed, but it's just another double check. Now I'm gonna go around the rims. Some people, like I said, use vinegar or water. And the main thing is just making sure they're clean so that your lid can adhere on it. All right, next we're gonna take our lid lifter and grab our lids. And some of them are stuck together sometimes. And put them on. Okay, this one wants to stick around. Okay. And yes, I am that kind of person. I like all my, I was gonna say all my balls to be straight, but that wouldn't sound good. So I just like all my ball labels the same way. All right, so these are already done. And now we're just gonna take our lids, our bands rather, and put them on and finger tight. So once we get resistance, just finger tight. Those jars are hot. Do another one. So I put all the bands on, so that this is completing the process. And like I said, all the jars have been debubbled. The lids have been checked to make sure that there was no cracks or anything. And we're gonna put 7 quarts in here. And of course, you know, we put the lemon juice in. I'm gonna move these around. And the last one looked like it wasn't going to fit. Let me get this going. All right. I'm going to take out a little bit more water because it's supposed to only be an inch. And then we'll put the lid on and process for 40 minutes. See you in 40 minutes. Okay. All right, so the timer has gone off. It's been processing for 40 minutes. And I took the lid off and I let it just cool down on its own for about 5 minutes or so. So I'm gonna take these 7 quart size jars out. And I'm gonna place them, you never place them on a counter by itself. You always have padding or something. It's supposed to take them straight out, but I haven't done it yet. So hopefully I'll do it this time. And it's okay if the water's on the lid still. And you're gonna let these stay untouched, unmoved overnight, and they'll cool down on their own. And the tops will start popping once the seal is complete. And that's it. Thank you for helping me do this and stay abundantly rooted and grounded.